So a while back, I'd gone to see my doctor to get a checkup, and she replied with the usual,
"I'm happy to report that everything here is normal."
Problem was, I didn't feel normal.
In fact, I later discovered that I had iron deficiency anemia, and the only thing that I was ever told to do was to simply take iron pills. But the little green or the little pink pills simply just constipated me, and the natural stuff never really boosted up my iron enough for me to get ahead, which led me to ask the question, why is my iron so low? And this is precisely the reason why that I wanted to be able to produce this video, because it's an important one. It's really, really common. And you're going to be surprised not only by the answers that I have for you, but why I rarely suggest iron supplementation anymore. Guys, this video is going to be a goodie. Are you ready? If so, let's do this. Hey, there's Melissa Ramos, nutritionist with a background in Chinese medicine, giving you the straight talk about hormones, autoimmunity, in a classy, sassy, and a bit of a smart-assy kind of way. Now, before we begin, I would love for you to do me a favor, and that is to subscribe. Subscribe to this channel and make sure to hit that bell button. That way you get notified every single time a new episode drops every Wednesday. Okay, so let's talk about iron deficiency anemia. Personally speaking, I had no idea that it played such a massive role in the heightened level of anxiety that I was experiencing. My iron was so low, I struggled breathing, had horrible hair loss, experienced heart palpitations, anxiety, and depression, and at one point, even suicidal ideation. So why didn't my doctor pick this up? Well, in my case, my doctor wasn't actually testing my ferritin levels, and ferritin is a blood marker that helps us to assess how much iron your body is storing. And this is important. Another reason why things might be getting missed is because doctors oftentimes read results based on lab ranges, which are super broad, and they're based off a sick population, versus a practitioner like myself will be reading them based on functional ranges, which are more narrow and are the ranges that your body is required to function in. So in other words, you absolutely could be falling well within those super broad lab ranges and still be symptomatic. Catching these when you are just outside of those narrow functional ranges allows a practitioner like myself to catch things early. From a ferritin perspective, you don't want to be under 50 nanograms per milliliter. Which, out of curiosity, have you had your ferritin levels tested? If so, what were your results? Comment below and let me know. Trying to up your iron with iron supplementation is addressing the iron deficiency as though it were the root cause. And it's not. In fact, it's a symptom. And did you know that low ferritin counts are extremely common in women with hypothyroidism and autoimmune conditions? Because it means that the cells are not getting enough oxygen. And without oxygen, recovery and repair can't happen. You see, without iron, you can't convert T4, your inactive thyroid hormone, to T3, your active thyroid hormone. And there is a massive correlation between low iron levels and hypothyroidism. The problem is that women aren't getting the right labs run, so they have no idea, and this is precisely the reason why that I created a free guide that will help. This guide is called my Thyroid 411 guide, and it includes everything that you need to get tested and where to get it if you're getting pushback. Plus, you'll receive tools and my hair loss check sheet. Oh, and by the way, did I mention that it is completely free, so make sure to go grab it by clicking the link in the comments. Now I get it, you're hearing about thyroid and iron deficiency before you start texting your friends.
So I was watching that Sexy Food Therapy girl, and she said the cause for my iron deficiency is because I have a thyroid issue. That's undiagnosed. Oh my god, seriously? Maybe I have a thyroid issue.
That's not what I said at all. Yes, there is a correlation between the two. But before you go thinking that thyroid issues are the root cause, it's not. I know, this can kind of get a little bit annoying, but stay with me here. You see, unless you're on medications or supplements which can block iron absorption, and we're going to get into that in a bit, or there's gastrointestinal bleeding, an accident where there's been extreme blood loss, or maybe it's because you're pregnant. I just want to rule out common causative factors that are often overlooked and may be behind why your iron is so low, including bacterial and stealth infections, mold toxicity, and heavy metal toxicity. Now, I get that you might be wondering the how, and I'm going to be getting into that in a bit. And frankly, you may have been told that the root cause for you was something completely different. So inevitably, I know I'm going to have some keyboard warriors who will say, "You have no idea what you're talking about. My doctor said it's because I have fibroids." Because you know that shit will snowball, right?
Oh my god, she really doesn't have a clue. My doctor said it's because my periods are just heavy. Totally! I know it's simply because I have low stomach acid, which is why I'm taking digestive enzymes now.
I told you that shit would happen. Let me clarify that the reasons that I'm going to be breaking down to you absolutely can affect your estrogen levels and other hormonal factors as well. That can lead to fibroids, that can lead to heavy bleeding, and also can impact our body's ability to make stomach acid. Let's start off with the first one, which are stealth pathogens, and I'm talking specifically about parasitic and bacterial infections. This is probably one of the most common things I see in practice, and it's the reason why in Sexy Lady Balls, my hormone membership program, members are given the opportunity to upgrade to get stool testing. And before you ask, no, not all stool testing is created equally, and I'm yet to find a GP that runs the same test that we do. You see, these buggers are pretty stealth because parasites, worms, and bacteria, what they do is they create something called biofilm, which is sort of like a slime that they hide behind. And these little suckers burrow into the mucous membranes of the gut, liver, and the gallbladder. And best of all, they feed on iron.
Dude, this is so good, man. Your practitioner has such good taste.
It's the reason why that if you do struggle with low iron, I want to be able to test to be able to rule out something that I see probably in about 90% of the patients that I work with before giving them iron supplementation, which can compound the problem. Now, I know you might be wondering, what about intravenous iron? Will that feed them too? IV absolutely does work better to boost up iron levels rather than oral supplementation. The problem is that there's a high rate of anaphylaxis, and it absolutely can feed Lyme and tick-associated parasites. Now you might be wondering, how on earth am I seeing so many people with gut infections? Just think of how many people have been on medications like antibiotics that weaken the gut, making it more susceptible to parasitic and bacterial infections, which can arise from contaminated food or water. But these infections can also come on in if we don't have enough stomach acid. And we may not have enough stomach acid because maybe we're super stressed out, or because we have H. pylori infection, which is the same infection that's indicated in peptic ulcers. Side note, it affects 2/3 of the world's population, and it's highly contagious in saliva. So if you have it, chances are so does your partner. When you have H. pylori, you won't have enough stomach acid to thwart parasites and bacteria from entering your gut. What are you guys doing in my gut? Seriously, you think your dancing is gonna win me over? The hell are you doing? Texting your friends to come on over? And you? Like, what? Do you think you're a mime? Ugh, you guys, what's the matter with you? You're such jerks. You're just such dick jerks. Such dick jerk fuckers. Such shit dick jerk fuckers. Next up is mold toxicity. I'd like to clarify that when I'm using the term mycotoxins, that I'm referring to the toxins produced from mold. There are different types of mold out there and also different types of mycotoxins as well. These mycotoxins mess with proteins, which would otherwise drive up all types of metabolic processes. And one of the ways that they do this is by slowing down our ability to make these proteins. I know this sounds complicated, so stay with me here, folks. One of the proteins that these mycotoxins slow down is heme, the base protein of hemoglobin found in red blood cells, and what helps to carry out oxygen in our blood. So in other words, if you're slow at making heme, then you're slow at making hemoglobin, and then you're slow at making red blood cells. And ta-da! You're anemic. Lastly, I want to cover another huge causative factor behind why you might be iron deficient, and that is due to heavy metal toxicity. Okay, folks, so one major source of heavy metal toxicity is the birth control pill. It's actually loaded with copper, which we'll circle back into a bit. But here's a fun fact. Doctors are now prescribing the birth control pill to perimenopausal women to thwart their perimenopausal symptoms. Why on earth would they do that? The birth control, as I mentioned, is loaded with copper, but it's biounavailable copper. Now, this is also the same when you're drinking unfiltered water. What I mean by biounavailable is that you have loads of it. Loads of copper, loads of it, but you're unable to use it. Having loads of it, but unable to use it. That's kind of like having vacation days during a pandemic. Another reason why we might not be able to use this copper is because we don't have enough copper binding proteins. And this is often seen in cases of adrenal fatigue. When we don't have enough of these copper binding proteins, copper is unbound and it's flowing freely in the body. And the first place that it's going to store is the liver, creating hormonal chaos. The second place that it stores is the brain, creating a lot of mental health issues. This is the reason why that it's also called the emotional mineral. And lastly, our female organs, which is the reason also why many women struggle with gynecological issues. I know, so what the hell does this have to do with iron deficiency anemia? Copper is needed to turn ferric into ferrous and back again, and we need it to incorporate iron into hemoglobin. But when copper isn't available, iron isn't incorporated into hemoglobin, and then you get, well, you guessed it, anemia. You see? I got there eventually. Now listen, I get it. You're probably wondering, well now what? For starters, test your gut and rule out any parasitic or bacterial infections. Second, you can do a preliminary test on survivingmold.com just to see if mold may be an issue for you. Third, you will definitely want to make sure that you filter your water, and my favorite water filter is Berkey water filters. I upgraded to get the fluoride filters. It's the one that we have at home. And if you do potentially have heavy metal toxicity or suspect that you do, it's important that you get tested and work with a practitioner who knows how to safely detox heavy metals out of your system. Can you take anything in the meantime to boost your iron levels? One thing I did in the meantime to be able to give me some level of relief was I took Spleen, which is a desiccated spleen supplement from Ancestral Supplements. It contains 5 times the amount of iron than liver. Listen, I get that this is still oral supplementation, but it's in a whole food form. So it's kind of similar than if you got iron from eating a steak. So this is actually a really great alternative because it's not a synthetic form of iron. Spleen is also incredibly helpful according to Chinese medicine for those who have digestive issues, because one of its roles is to govern digestion. And in the meantime, incorporate other supplements that will help to support your body, your gut, and your adrenals. Things like liposomal vitamin C, which is also antagonistic to copper. And avoid things that will inhibit iron absorption. Things like coffee, alcohol, and grains due to its phytic acid. Drugs that inhibit iron absorption are antacids and proton pump inhibitors. Okay, you. Whew. That's it. That was a lot of info, but I hope that you learned a ton. And hey, if you dug this video, then do me a favor. Give it a thumbs up. Tag a friend. Share it. Leave me a comment. Let me know what you thought. Your word truly does matter to me. And don't forget to subscribe. It's a great way to be able to support the work that I do. I'll see you next Wednesday.